Hi everyone, Roxanne here. I'm back with part 2 from our stillbirth experience from January 2011. If you have not watched part 1 at this time, I'm going to link it in the description below and also to the cards of this video, which you're going to find in the upper right corner, looking like the letter I with a circle around it. And if you click on that when you see it, it's going to bring you directly to part 1 of this video. So basically where we had left off is that we had went for an ultrasound and to confirm that there was no heartbeat. Our little boy had then passed. So we were remaining at our local hospital and we were heading to OB to go deliver. At this point, when we got there, everything was said and done. I was dilated fully and I was ready to push. I do remember being very exhausted and very in shock. I told the doctor that I couldn't do, I wasn't able to do it at this time, but it had to be done, so we had to proceed. I did get some assistance come push time. I needed that little bit of help. I was having a hard time, I think just, emotionally I was drained. It's not something you really want to live, and again, I don't remember being in pain at that point. I was on quite a bit of medication. They had been giving me medication to kind of help me cope with the pain at that point, so I was on a lot of medication and stuff, so again, I was kind of out of it. We ended up delivering our son, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the exact time was 10:05 a.m. I'm pretty positive. I'd have to look back and check, but I'm pretty sure it was about 10:05 a.m. So as you can imagine, things kind of went really fast. I got to the hospital, it was maybe 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I had delivered at 10 o'clock in the morning. Things progressed very fast, and they did everything that they could in their power as doctors. The OB nurses were amazing. Again, we had that little experience with our emergency department nurse, but at this point, we were given the option to spend a bit of time with our son to say goodbye. We decided to. I don't remember how long, and if I look back, I feel like it wasn't that long. One thing I do remember is looking at him and thinking that he looked like his father. We had named him Malik, which is a name that we already had decided from time. That was a name that we had really loved and agreed on from time. I think we may have even had that name kind of discussed before we were having kids. If we have a boy, we're going to name him Malik. So anyways, that was his name, and once we were done spending time with him, they came and took him away. I was wheeled to a private room where I continued my recovery process. And during that time, I had family around, and my dad had left the hospital to go take care of funeral arrangements. So before 20 weeks pregnant, if you have a loss, you don't have to take care of that. Anytime you are above 20 weeks, you have to make those arrangements. So he was taking care of that. I had family with me. I remember telling the doctor I just wanted to go home. Again, I'm in the OB department where I'm hearing newborn babies cry, and at the time was extremely difficult. So anyways, I had great care. I had great nurses at that point taking care of us. And when it was time to leave, and I think it was only a few hours later, they had put together like a memory box for us, which we don't look at. It's put away. I mean, we know where it is, and it's very accessible. We've looked at, we've been in it a couple of times, but nothing more than that. And that was very nice of them. And then we ended up going to my family, or my parents' house, where we spent, I believe, the next 2 days, if I'm not mistaken. We just weren't in that state of mind to be at home caring for ourselves at that point. The following days were a bit rough, so we had, I remember specifically the nights were really bad for me. I think my husband as well. We would, we were exhausted, and we would fall asleep, and if it wasn't myself, it was him waking up through the night, having a hard time dealing with the situation. So myself, I would wake up in tears, screaming. I remember, it woke my parents up, and I was having a really hard time dealing with it all. After a few nights, I think that did get better. I think it was just the matter of, this is really reality. It didn't feel real, but yet, it felt real, and I felt like empty inside, So, basically, we did end up seeing the body one more time before we decided to get the body cremated. And I have to say we are very thankful for, my parents taking care of those arrangements for us. They did ask us, we had input in terms of the urn and where we were going to put the ashes and stuff, but they took care of everything else. And we were very fortunate that we had the funeral home that we went with actually covered all the costs of the arrangements, except for one very minor cost. They just said, no parent should have to deal with this, basically, and we were very grateful. So that is something that was very, a big sigh of relief for us at the time. And I believe a few days after that this happened, or maybe within the week, I don't remember exactly. I remember that my niece, it was probably the following week, my niece had her baptism, and I was the godmother, so that was a very difficult time for me because I was still in a very deep grieving process. And that same day, so we had that in the morning, and in the afternoon we followed by a small ceremony for our loss as well, so it was a tough day. The ceremony we had was very small. It was just a close family, a bit of extended family. There wasn't many people, and that's how we wanted it to be. I do remember also in the first coming days, a big thing was my doctor was keeping an eye, keeping in touch, and I'd seen him a couple times, just to make sure, one, that I was dealing okay, and that my husband was dealing okay, and the big thing is to make sure that there's no postpartum depression at that point, To get postpartum depression, sorry, you can get postpartum depression, after pregnancy, after a regular pregnancy, what the case is. And at the time, I never thought that I dealt with it. I don't believe that I had postpartum depression. But if I look back now, I would have to say that I do believe I dealt with some form of it. So that's how things kind of went. We didn't do counseling. We didn't have any kind of counselors other than speaking to my doctor a few times. That was about it. Another big thing, too, from our doctor's perspective was when something so horrific or, traumatizing happens, that at this point, it's in terms of if the couples kind of bear away from each other, because it can tear a lot of couples apart. That never happened for us. All of our bad experiences in terms of losses, I would have to say, brought us closer together, if anything. And I remember people telling me as well, things happen for a reason. At the time, I didn't, that was not a thought process in my mind, and it was not what I wanted to hear. Now that I've healed and, I have kids of my own, I do believe that things happen for a reason, and I do think that everything does happen for a reason, basically. So that was basically how we did. Now, how was I in the following weeks and months? I would say the worst was up until about 2-3 months after, because I believe we had conceived again in March, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say March, right around there. And again, our loss was January 15th, so it wasn't that much time. But I want to say that I had a very hard time getting out of the house. I just wanted to be alone. Even talking to family, I didn't really want to. I basically just wanted my own time, wanted my own space. And even if I would talk to my family and it was not related to the loss, I'd just break down all the time. So I think I was just a mess emotionally. If I did go out for any kind of reason, one thing I do strongly remember is that I felt like I was seeing pregnant women everywhere at that time. And if it wasn't just for pregnant women, I was also seeing pregnant women smoke. And that's something that I strongly, it's just fresh in my mind. And now if you're watching this video and you are in a pregnancy and you are a smoker, don't take this the wrong way. I'm not judging you. Everyone has their personal, beliefs, and if that's what you choose to do, that's okay. But at the time when I was grieving and that's what I saw, I just wanted to get out of the vehicle and go give a big spiel to anyone I could see, in that moment. Now, I think because I looked back and was thinking, I followed a textbook pregnancy. I tried to do, as they say, limit your caffeine or eating healthy, and that's something that I was strongly doing. So to look at somebody thinking, you're smoking and I did everything right and this happened to me, that wasn't fair. Again, that was just a period that I went through, and I got through that. Now, what did help me was, one, I built up enough courage to get back online and go on pregnancy sites, pregnancy forums, pregnancy apps on your mobile device, and I would go specifically in the grieving and loss sections of them. And there was a lot of other moms. That were dealing with, not necessarily the same story that we had. However, they were dealing with similar stories. And I think just reading how maybe some moms coped differently and what they did to help, and some were, had longer to grieve already, and some it was just very fresh. So I think just having all these moms or parents discuss that stuff was really a main thing that had helped me at the time. And two, although a lot of people were telling me not to, but in my mind I knew I wanted to try and conceive for another child again. And a lot of people were telling me it's too soon and that's not the right thing to do. And it's not going to mask that pain that you're feeling or replace that. And although I never wanted to hear that, and I, at this day, if my doctor had told me for any absolute reason that you cannot try again right now, then I would listen to my doctor. But that wasn't the case. This wasn't coming from medical advice. This was family, friends, whatever the case is. And I just think, everyone grieves so differently. And sure, some people take years before trying again after a loss, and others don't. But for me, trying again to conceive or conceiving was something that strongly helped me look forward to tomorrow. It helped me look at a bigger picture opposed to just feeling why am I here, or what what am I doing with myself kind of thing. So that was a big thing. I did take some time off work. Of course, there was some benefits available for me at that time. But that's basically it. So that's really how everything happened and how I coped. I did have family by my side, so if that was something that I needed, they were there if I needed to talk or just cry. And then my husband as well. I'm a very, very emotional person, and a lot of men are more kept to themselves, not all of them, but so my husband is, so he didn't show a lot of that emotion and didn't speak about it very much. So one thing I gotta say is I always felt like, how does he feel? Does it really bug him? I know it did, but I guess in that time frame. But he was there, like he knew, I had rough days and he was there. So basically, that's our experience, and the diagnosis of this, or what the outcome was, as I had discussed, is I did have a shorter cervix. That was found that was seen at my anatomy scan, which I think I didn't know until after the loss, but basically that was not cause for what happened. We found out that it was most likely due to a complete placental abruption, which would have been the reason being that I had the significant bleeding. And then again, when that happens, then the baby loses oxygen. So that would have been why the baby had passed. Basically, I was told that for a baby to survive, it technically would need to be at least a pound. And my baby, at the time wasn't quite a pound. And think of it, we were just a couple days shy of 22 weeks, and that is quite young. And, in this day, you have, in bigger centers, you have babies that do survive at that age. But some have, issues that come with it in the long run, and others don't. Now, I wouldn't change the way things happen. I wish I could, and it didn't happen, but in the same sense, it happened the way it did. And I think I would have just wanted the best for my child. So I wouldn't want, that suffering for my child. We don't know what quality of life it would have been, right? So things happened, and they happened the way it did for a reason. If it was meant to be a different story, it would have been that way. So basically that's our story. If you have any questions, again, comments, leave them below. We're happy to answer any of them. Again, my detail in terms of the delivery is very vague because I was quite out of it and I don't remember much. But feel free to comment below because my husband might remember more and might have a different view, or, even his perspective of things that he might want to, he would most likely share an answer for sure. So feel free to ask away. We are doing this video and sharing our story in hopes to help maybe other families, that are dealing with a grieving process. It may be a little bit of a different story, and of course everyone's got their own story. But again, just, you're not alone out there, so don't ever feel like you're alone. And it does get better. I know when I dealt with it at the time, people told me the same thing, and I felt that's impossible. But, you're never going to forget it, and you're still going to have days that are extremely hard. But, it really does get better to cope with, and I can say, I'm a little more emotional now with the pregnancy. My hormones are flying a little bit. But it does truly get better, and just don't lose hope. That was the biggest thing for me, is in the long run I just never lost hope, even though there was a point in time, which is coming in another story, another video, that I thought, am I ever going to be a parent, because of our first 3 pregnancy were losses, and I did have that, but I just told myself I can't give up, and so I didn't, and we're here today. We have 3 healthy kids and one more on the way, and basically that's how things went. So I'm going to have more videos coming. Stay tuned. We have more pregnancies, losses. Again, this is my 9th pregnancy. We have some labor coming. So that's potentially stuff that we will share with you, is our labor video as well, labor and delivery. And we have some parenting stuff as well we want to share with you in general. So stay tuned. We have a lot of things coming your way. Again, feel free to share the video. Hopefully it can help another parent one day in terms of their grieving process, or just even hearing someone else's experience from there. So again, we do thank you for watching, and have a great day.